Captain Elias Brand stared at the stark, cold void of space, where the alien fleet loomed like a swarm of locusts. The massive vessels were bathed in the harsh lights of Earth's defense station, the last barrier against an uninvited apocalypse. On the monitors, a blinking red light signaled the final transmission from Earth's command. "This is Earth's final warning. Cease your approach or face total annihilation." The message crackled with static, hanging in the vast emptiness like a ghostly threat. Elias, with his rugged face illuminated by the glow of the control room, clenched his jaw. The weight of countless lives pressed upon him. His uniform, adorned with medals from conflicts past, felt heavier than usual. He turned to his chief scientist, Dr. Lena Kale, who was frantically adjusting the settings of her experimental defense system. Her sharp eyes and pale complexion betrayed her intense focus. "It's ready, Elias," Lena said, her voice steady but edged with anxiety. "The graviton pulse will activate soon. If it works." "If it works," Elias echoed, not masking his skepticism. "You're asking me to trust an untested theory against a fleet that outmatches us by tenfold." Lena's fingers danced over the controls. "It's not a theory. We've run simulations. This is our only chance. If it fails, we're doomed." The room buzzed with tension as the alien fleet advanced, its ominous shadow casting a pall over the defense station. Each ship was a colossus of dark metal, bristling with weaponry. The silence of the command center was punctuated only by the mechanical whir of machinery and the distant rumble of preparation. Elias paced the room, his boots echoing against the steel floor. His mind raced through the faces of his crew, each one a personal connection. "Why are they so insistent on destroying us?" he muttered, more to himself than to Lena. "What could Earth have done to provoke this?" Lena glanced up, her eyes narrowing with frustration. "It's not about what Earth did. It's about what they want. They're after dominance, and we're the next step." The intercom crackled. "Captain, alien vessels are within firing range." Elias took a deep breath, his gaze steady. "Activate the pulse," he ordered, his voice firmer than he felt. "Let's see if our warning means anything." Lena hesitated for a heartbeat before pressing the activation sequence. A low hum filled the room as the graviton pulse began to charge. The air seemed to thicken, vibrating with a foreboding energy. Elias's eyes never left the screens, where the alien fleet's advance seemed almost mocking in its inevitability. "Pulse at maximum charge," Lena announced, her fingers trembling slightly. "On your mark." Elias nodded. "Fire it." The room was swallowed by a blinding light. The pulsation surged through space, rippling outward like a cosmic wave. For a moment, nothing changed. The alien fleet continued its approach, impervious. Then, without warning, the lead alien vessel erupted into a cascade of debris. The chain reaction was immediate and devastating. One ship after another disintegrated in a spectacular display of light and force. The monitors showed a graveyard of alien wreckage where once there was a menacing armada. Elias stood in stunned silence, the realization of their victory slowly sinking in. Lena's face was a mask of cold determination, but her eyes betrayed a flicker of satisfaction. "We did it," Elias said, his voice rough. "But at what cost?" Lena's response was measured. "It was necessary. We're safe for now." The final remnants of the alien fleet floated in the void, a stark reminder of how close humanity had come to extinction. Elias knew that while the immediate threat was gone, the galaxy had been irrevocably altered. The battle was won, but the war for Earth's survival was far from over. The aftermath of the alien fleet's obliteration left Earth's defense station eerily quiet. The once bustling control room now felt like a tomb, filled with the acrid smell of burned electronics and the hum of damaged systems. Captain Elias Brand stared out at the void, his mind wrestling with the enormity of their victory. Lena Kale stood by her workstation, her fingers still hovering over the controls. Her eyes, usually sharp and calculating, were now shadowed with fatigue. "We did it," she said softly, though her voice carried a note of emptiness. "But it's not over." Elias turned, his face lined with concern. What do you mean, Lena? The threat's been neutralized. We've won. Lena's gaze was distant, fixed on the shattered remains of the alien armada drifting in space. This was just the first wave. The intelligence we gathered suggested a full-scale invasion was imminent. What we saw today was only a fraction of their might. The quiet was broken by a sudden alarm. The lights flickered, and the intercom crackled to life. Captain, we're detecting multiple ships approaching. It's a new fleet, larger than the previous one. Elias's heart sank. New fleet? Why weren't we warned? Not all intelligence is perfect, Lena replied, her tone clipped. Our sensors might have missed something, or the aliens could have been holding back their main force. Elias clenched his fists. We need to get the fleet back in position and prepare for another attack. We're not done yet. The crew scrambled to their stations, their faces etched with worry. The control room buzzed with activity as the defense systems were brought back online. Elias strode across the room, his every step purposeful. Prepare the graviton pulse for another deployment. We can't afford any miscalculations. Lena moved quickly, her expertise evident as she adjusted the settings. If we deploy the pulse again, we risk overloading the system. It's only meant to be used once in extreme situations. Elias's eyes met hers, a flicker of unease crossing his face. Do we have any other options? Before Lena could respond, the view screens flashed with images of the approaching fleet. The new armada was even more imposing, sleek, angular ships with pulsating energy fields that seemed to warp space itself. The alien vessels were unlike anything they had seen before, a testament to their advanced technology. Captain, the communications officer called out. The aliens are broadcasting a new message. The message appeared on the main screen, an incomprehensible sequence of symbols and static. Lena's brow furrowed as she analyzed it. They're not just threatening us. They're declaring war. They see our victory as a challenge. Elias took a deep breath, his mind racing. So we're dealing with a more aggressive faction. We'll need to adapt quickly. Lena nodded, her expression resolute. I'll need to modify the pulse's frequency to target their energy fields. It's a long shot, but it might give us an advantage. As Lena worked, Elias reviewed the fleet's readiness. The defense station's corridors were filled with the sounds of hurried preparations, metallic clangs, rapid footsteps, and the occasional shouted command. The atmosphere was tense, the weight of impending conflict heavy on everyone's shoulders. Elias approached Lena, who was now deep in concentration. How long until the modifications are complete? 20 minutes if everything goes smoothly, Lena replied, not looking up from her console. Elias nodded and turned back to the control room, where the crew was busy with last-minute checks. He felt the pressure of leadership pressing down on him, the responsibility of protecting Earth and its people becoming ever more daunting. Captain, the communications officer said urgently, the alien fleet is entering the outer defense perimeter. They're preparing to engage. Elias's pulse quickened. Deploy the modified pulse as soon as Lena gives the go-ahead. We need to act fast. The minutes ticked by like hours. Lena's fingers flew over the controls, her brow furrowed in concentration. Finally, she looked up, her eyes meeting Elias's. It's ready. Fire it, Elias ordered, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside. The control room fell silent as the graviton pulse was launched. The ship's engines roared, and the space around them seemed to warp and shimmer. The new armada of alien ships was engulfed in a blinding light, their advanced energy fields struggling against the pulse's power. Elias watched the screens intently, his breath held. The fate of Earth hung in the balance once more. As the pulse's effects began to unfold, Elias felt a flicker of hope amidst the tension. This battle was far from over, but humanity had shown it could stand against the darkness of the void. The blinding light from the graviton pulse slowly faded, revealing the debris of the alien fleet scattered across the void. Yet, the eerie silence was a grim reminder that their victory was temporary. The control room buzzed with the sounds of worried chatter and frantic updates, the earlier sense of relief now replaced with a more profound anxiety. Captain Elias Brand scanned the chaotic scene from the control room, his eyes flicking between the monitors displaying the wreckage and the new fleet's trajectory. Lena Kale stood beside him, her face illuminated by the soft glow of the consoles. Sweat trickled down her temple, mingling with the exhaustion etched into her features. "How many are left?" Elias asked, his voice low but urgent. Lena, still working furiously, glanced up. "We've taken out most of their primary ships, but their secondary forces are regrouping. They're bringing in reinforcements, more advanced than we anticipated." Elias's jaw tightened. "So, this is just the beginning?" "Afraid so," Lena confirmed. "We're dealing with a sophisticated enemy. They're not just attacking, they're adapting." The tension in the room was palpable as the crew continued their tasks with a mix of hope and trepidation. The flashing red alerts and the beeping of consoles filled the space with a relentless rhythm, underscoring the urgency of their situation. Suddenly, a young lieutenant burst into the control room, his face pale. "Captain, we've lost contact with the outer defense stations. They're reporting massive energy surges, something we haven't seen before." Elias's heart sank. "Energy surges? Are they under attack?" "Yes, sir," the lieutenant replied, nodding. "And the readings suggest they're preparing for a large-scale offensive." Lena's eyes widened as she processed the information. "They're not just attacking our defense stations. They're likely setting up a coordinated strike against our main facility." Elias's mind raced. "We need to fortify our defenses and counterattack. We can't afford to lose our outer stations." Lena nodded, her fingers flying over the controls as she initiated the defensive protocols. "I'll reroute energy to the shields and deploy the remaining interceptors." The control room became a hive of activity. Crew members moved with practiced efficiency, each one playing a crucial role in the impending battle. Elias took a moment to glance at the view screens, where the alien fleet's formation was taking shape, a daunting array of sleek, menacing vessels. "Captain," Lena said, her voice sharp, "I'm detecting a new signal from the aliens. It's a transmission, but it's not in any known frequency or code." Elias's brow furrowed. "What do you make of it?" Lena shook her head. "It's unlike anything we've encountered. They might be trying to communicate or encrypt their next move." Before Elias could respond, a new alarm blared. The screens displayed a surge of activity from the alien fleet, a massive wave of energy forming, aimed directly at Earth's defense station. "Deploy the interceptors now," Elias ordered, his voice cutting through the chaos. "And brace for impact." The crew scrambled to action, deploying the remaining interceptors and adjusting the shields for maximum coverage. Elias watched the incoming wave of energy, a swirling mass of ominous light, approaching with terrifying speed. The impact was immediate and powerful. The defense station shook violently, the lights flickering and alarms blaring. Elias was thrown against the console but quickly regained his footing, his face a mask of determination. "Status report!" he shouted over the din. A crew member struggled to maintain her composure as she relayed the information. "Shields holding at 60%. The interceptors have managed to deflect most of the energy, but the station is taking heavy damage." Lena's face was set in grim determination. "We need to counterstrike. If we don't push back, they'll keep us on the defensive." Elias nodded, his mind already calculating their next move. "Prepare the remaining graviton pulses for deployment. We'll need every advantage we can get." The crew worked tirelessly, the clamor of their efforts filling the control room as they prepared for another assault. Elias felt the weight of leadership pressing down on him, the responsibility for every life aboard the station resting on his shoulders. As the graviton pulses were readied, Elias glanced at Lena, her focus unyielding. "How long until we're ready?" 5 minutes if nothing goes wrong," Lena replied, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. Elias took a deep breath, his gaze returning to the view screens. The alien fleet, now more formidable than ever, continued its relentless advance. The tension was a living entity in the control room, suffocating and unyielding. Just as the preparations neared completion, the lights dimmed abruptly, plunging the control room into near darkness. The intercom crackled with a new, disjointed transmission from the aliens. It was a low, rhythmic pulse, repeating over and over. "Captain," Lena said, her voice tense. "The transmission, it's a signal. They're coordinating something." Elias's eyes narrowed. "Prepare for whatever comes next. We're about to find out just how determined they are." The blaring alarms and flickering lights were the only heralds of the imminent disaster. The control room, now bathed in the cold, blue light of emergency mode, was a frenzy of activity. Captain Elias Brand and his team braced themselves as the alien fleet's latest attack neared its peak. "Captain, we're detecting a massive energy buildup from the alien ships," Lena Kale reported, her fingers flying across the console as she analyzed the readings. Her face was set in a mask of concentration, sweat pooling at her temples. Elias's gaze shifted from the screens to Lena, his eyes narrowing. "What kind of buildup?" Lena's eyes darted between the monitors. "It's unlike anything we've seen. They're creating a concentrated energy field, likely preparing for a decisive strike." The gravity of the situation sank in. Elias knew that if the aliens succeeded, Earth's defense network could be shattered, and the consequences would be catastrophic. He felt the weight of his responsibility press down on him with renewed intensity. "Prepare for immediate countermeasures," Elias ordered, his voice resolute. "Deploy all available interceptors and maximize shield capacity." The crew leaped into action, their movements precise and urgent. The hum of machinery and the rhythmic clatter of keyboards became a steady backdrop to the mounting tension. Elias paced back and forth, his mind racing through their limited options. Lena looked up, her face pale but determined. "Captain, we've just intercepted another transmission. It's encrypted, but it's definitely a command signal." Elias's eyes sharpened. "Any chance we can decrypt it?" "I'm working on it," Lena replied. "But it's a complex encryption. It might take a few minutes." As Lena focused on cracking the alien code, Elias's attention was drawn to the view screens. The alien fleet had formed a menacing, synchronized formation, their ships arrayed in a perfect, intimidating grid. The concentrated energy field they were generating pulsed rhythmically, like the heartbeat of a predator preparing to strike. The control room was a whirlwind of activity. Crew members shouted commands, and the clamor of machinery filled the air. Elias could feel the tension mounting, a tangible weight pressing down on his shoulders. Suddenly, the lights dimmed once more, and the room fell into an uneasy silence. The energy buildup from the alien fleet reached a crescendo. Elias's heart pounded as the countdown to the attack began. "Captain, the transmission is decrypting," Lena called out. Her voice, though steady, carried an undertone of urgency. "It's a directive to launch a synchronized assault. They're targeting our main power core." Elias's eyes widened. "They're going for our core? That's their endgame." Lena nodded. "Exactly. If they take it out, we'll lose all power. We need to act fast." Elias's mind raced. "Redirect power to the core's defenses and initiate the final graviton pulse sequence. We'll hit them with everything we've got." The crew worked furiously, rerouting power and preparing the graviton pulses. The control room's atmosphere was electric with tension, every individual focused on their task with unwavering determination. As the countdown reached its final seconds, Elias watched the view screens. The alien ships were now poised for their attack, their energy fields glowing ominously. The first wave of concentrated energy surged forward, a blinding beam of light that hurtled towards Earth's core. "Engage interceptors!" Elias commanded, his voice cutting through the chaos. The interceptors roared to life, their lasers cutting through the alien energy beams with precision. The screens showed the energy field dispersing, but not entirely. The alien assault was relentless, their ships adjusting and compensating with alarming speed. Lena's face was a portrait of intense concentration. "We've managed to deflect the initial wave, but they're recalibrating. They'll strike again, harder." Elias's eyes were fixed on the view screens, the alien fleet's relentless assault bearing down on their defenses. Prepare the graviton pulses. We need to break their formation. The crew readied the graviton pulses, the machinery humming with power. Elias watched as the final sequence was initiated. The graviton pulses shot out in a coordinated barrage, striking the alien fleet with devastating force. The alien ships rocked under the onslaught, their energy fields flickering and failing. The screens showed the once unified fleet breaking apart, their ships scattering and retreating. The control room erupted in cheers, but Elias's relief was tempered by the knowledge that this battle was only a part of a larger war. "We've pushed them back," Lena said, her voice tinged with exhaustion. "But this isn't over. They'll regroup and come back stronger." Elias nodded, his gaze lingering on the retreating alien fleet. "We've bought ourselves some time. But we need to prepare for their next move." The control room gradually settled into a tense calm. The crew, though weary, was buoyed by their victory. Elias took a moment to gather his thoughts, his mind already strategizing for the battles ahead. As Lena approached, Elias met her gaze with a determined nod. "We'll need to strengthen our defenses and anticipate their strategies." This was a critical moment, but the real challenge lies ahead. Lena nodded, her expression resolute. "Agreed. We'll be ready."